The research vessel, a sturdy ship named the Horizon, cut through the surf with steady purpose, its hull humming against the watery depths. Dr. Evelyn Hart stood near the bow, her sharp eyes fixed on the distant horizon, where a vague shape loomed, a dark mass that refused to settle into a known form. Behind her, the scattered murmurs of the expedition team blended with the creaking of rigging and the slap of waves against the ship's side. The air was thick with salt and anticipation, a cocktail of excitement and unease that clung to the skin and settled deep in the bones. Evelyn pulled her jacket tighter against the chill, dark hair pulled back into a practical knot that exposed the faint lines etched by years at sea. Her gaze never wavered from the outline ahead. This was the moment she'd chased for years, new discovery beyond the boundaries of the mapped world. Yet something gnawed at her, a whisper of doubt that grew louder with every nautical mile. Below deck, the cramped cabin was alive with the quiet buzz of equipment and conversation. Marcus Lynn leaned over a cluttered table strewn with digital maps, topographical data, and geological samples. His short-cropped hair was damp with sea spray, and the worn leather jacket he always wore seemed almost like armor against the unknown. He grinned at Lena Carr, who sat nearby, fingers tapping lightly on a notebook filled with scribbled glyphs and translations. "You really think this place will hold secrets worth risking our skins for?" Marcus asked, voice low but charged with excitement. Lena's pale eyes flicked up, her voice barely a whisper. "Something about it feels different, like it's waiting to be remembered." Evelyn joined them, her presence commanding yet tempered by the shadows of her own fears. "That's why we're here. To uncover what's been forgotten and to understand what defies knowing." The ship's captain, Jonas Reed, stood steadfast at the helm, his rugged face weather-beaten from decades at sea. His steady hands gripped the wheel, eyes scanning instruments and horizon alike. "We're sailing into a blank spot, Doctor," he said firmly. "No charts, no records, nothing." "Exactly," Evelyn replied, her voice steady but low. "That's what makes it real." As the ship drew closer, the island's shape sharpened, a jagged silhouette crowned with twisted trees and rocky cliffs. Yet on every digital map, every satellite image, and every historical record, it was as if the place simply did not exist. The data fed into their instruments returned emptiness, a void where the island should have been. The air around the island was unnervingly still. Even the gulls, which usually circled and called above such landmasses, were absent. A creeping silence seemed to ripple outward, swallowing the usual maritime chorus and replacing it with an oppressive hush. As the team prepared to make landfall, Evelyn's mind raced. This island was no ordinary place. It was a living mystery, a puzzle that threatened to upend their understanding of reality itself. She felt the weight of their mission settle on her shoulders, one of discovery but also of survival. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the deck as the Horizon anchored just offshore. The scientists gathered their gear, faces pale but resolute. They were about to step into a world uncharted, where the rules they knew might not apply, and where the silence promised more than absence, it promised oblivion. Evelyn glanced at each member of her team, Marcus with his restless energy and daring grin, Lena, quiet and watchful, clutching her notebooks as if they were lifelines, the captain, steady and unyielding, and the others, each carrying their own hopes and fears. Together, they would face the island's secrets and the terror that lay beneath its surface. The first step onto the sand was tentative, the strange soil cold and damp beneath their boots. The island breathed around them alive, watching, waiting, and as the sun dipped toward the horizon, the maps behind them remained stubbornly blank, refusing to acknowledge the place where they now stood. What was this place? How could it exist beyond the grasp of memory and record? And what price would they pay for seeking the truth hidden in the salt and the silence? The answers awaited just beyond the veil of the unknown. On deck, Dr. Evelyn Hart stood rigid, her sharp eyes sweeping the horizon where the island loomed like a half-remembered dream, its outline blurred by a gauzy veil of mist. The air was thick with salt and something else, an indefinable weight pressing quietly against the senses. Around her, the team prepared for the landing with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Marcus Lynn paced near the bow, his worn leather jacket flapping in the sea breeze, eyes bright with that relentless hunger for discovery. Lena Carr lingered closer to the ship's railing, her pale face partially hidden beneath a curtain of light hair, whispering fragments of an old language she had begun piecing together. Even Captain Jonas Reed, rugged and stoic, scanned the island with a furrowed brow, skepticism hardening his features. "This place isn't on any chart," Marcus muttered, glancing at his handheld device that stubbornly refused to register the island's coordinates. No satellite data, no GPS lock. It's like it's off the map. Evelyn nodded, her fingers tightening around the strap of her field bag. "That's exactly why we're here. To understand what it is and how it exists in this liminal space." The landing craft bumped onto the coarse sand, the shore welcoming them with a strange softness. The beach seemed alive, shifting subtly beneath their feet as if the island breathed. The fog clung close, swallowing sound and blurring edges. As they stepped off, the distant roar of the ocean waves felt muffled, almost distant, like a memory fading in the back of the mind. Evelyn knelt beside a tide pool, her dark hair pulled back tightly to keep it from her face. Her fingers traced the smooth, wet stones, noting iridescent patterns shifting beneath the water's surface, colors that seemed to ripple and pulse, alive with an otherworldly glow. She pulled out her notebook, scribbling furiously, the scratching of pen against paper, the only sound she could trust. "Look at this," Marcus called from a few yards away, his voice sharp but low. He was scanning the tangled undergrowth, eager to push beyond the immediate shoreline. The terrain's shifting. The trees aren't where they were on the satellite images, if you can even call them that. Evelyn stood, brushing sand from her knees. "We need to be careful. This place doesn't follow normal rules." Lena approached silently, her eyes distant. "The sounds, they're fading. Even the birds have stopped." A sudden hush fell over the group, as if the island absorbed their voices. The usual chorus of wildlife vanished abruptly, leaving an oppressive silence that pressed on their ears and crawled beneath their skin. Even the wind seemed to hesitate, as if afraid to break the quiet. Captain Reed's voice cut through the stillness. "Stay alert. This silence isn't natural, it's a warning." The team set up a temporary camp near a cluster of jagged rocks, the fog swirling low and thick around them. Around the flickering campfire, Evelyn's voice was steady but strained as she dictated observations into a recorder, the mechanical hum a fragile lifeline against the growing quiet. Marcus leaned forward, voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I want to push inland tomorrow. There's something here, something this island doesn't want us to find." Evelyn's eyes met his, a storm of doubt and determination clashing within her. "Then we proceed with caution. We document everything, no matter how small. This place resists being known." Lena's lips moved silently, whispering words long forgotten by history, names that no one else dared speak aloud. The island seemed to respond, the silence deepening, swallowing their voices and their memories before they could be fully formed. As night fell, The team lay restless beneath a canopy of stars. The oppressive quiet, a constant reminder that the island was not merely land, but a presence, an entity wrapped in salt and silence, waiting to erase all who dared trespass. The first glimpses of the island had revealed not just strange terrain or shifting landmarks, but a creeping terror that settled in the bones. It was a silence that spoke louder than any scream, a void that threatened to consume names, memories, and identities. And as the scientists drifted into uneasy sleep, none could shake the feeling that the island was already watching, already beginning its work. Evelyn's last thoughts before the darkness claimed her were of the fragile thread that held them all together, the names, the words, the stories. If those could be lost, what remained? And could they fight back against the silence that sought to swallow them whole? The island answered only with the sound of the tide, washing away footprints and whispers alike. The day had begun with hope and purpose. But as the team's first steps sank into the shifting sands, the island's true nature began to reveal itself, elusive, dangerous, and utterly silent. Evelyn's obsessive note-taking became a desperate act of resistance, while Marcus's restless energy threatened to unravel the fragile order. And beneath it all, the silence crept closer, a tidal force of erasure that no one yet fully understood. The expedition had crossed a threshold. The island had accepted them not as visitors, but as potential sacrifices to its endless hunger for forgetting. Dr. Evelyn Hart stood with her clipboard, the pale light catching the sharp planes of her face, shadowed by the dark hair pulled taut against the morning breeze. Around her, the others fidgeted with equipment or exchanged wary glances. Marcus Lynn crouched nearby, tracing lines on his battered map with a finger, brows furrowed in frustration. Lena Carr hovered at the edge of the clearing, her pale face almost swallowed by the light strands of hair that fell over her eyes. The island had already begun to assert its strange dominion. Where is it? Marcus's voice cut the silence sharply. The tree was right here yesterday. Evelyn's eyes scanned the space, but the large tree was gone. In its place lay a hollow, a shallow depression in the soil where roots might have once clung. The earth was undisturbed, no sign of a toppled trunk or broken limbs. It was as if the tree had never existed. "This can't be," Evelyn murmured, her voice tight. She tapped her clipboard, checking coordinates. Then her gaze flicked to a GPS device that blinked uncertainly. The instruments confirmed the location. We documented it clearly. Lena stepped forward, voice barely above a whisper. Sometimes things that are lost need names to exist. The others turned toward her, uncertain. She knelt on the damp soil, tracing a delicate finger in the leaf litter as she murmured soft syllables, words no one recognized. Guttural, yet strangely melodic, ancient tongues that seemed to resonate with the very earth beneath them. The air around her felt colder, charged with fragile hope. "What are you saying?" Marcus asked, skepticism in his voice. "Names," she replied simply. "Lost names. If we do not name the things we see, they disappear." Evelyn's analytical mind wrestled with the possibility. The island seemed to resist the scientific method, a living enigma that defied the laws she had trusted for decades. She glanced at Marcus, whose jaw was clenched tight with frustration. "We can't afford to chase ghosts," he snapped. "We need data-stable, consistent data. This is madness." "And yet," Evelyn said quietly, "the evidence is right in front of us. The island is not static. It shifts. It erases. We have to adapt." Tensions simmered between them, a fragile balance of authority and doubt. Elsewhere, Captain Jonas Reed stood aboard the ship, his gaze fixed on the shore, now wreathed in a creeping fog that swallowed the horizon. His weather-beaten face was a mask of stoic concern, the pragmatic mariner wary of the island's growing strangeness. Back on the island, Dr. Samuel Ortiz paced near the boundary of the clearing, adjusting his glasses as he observed the group's disarray. "This place plays tricks on the mind," he said, voice low and measured. "We must guard against paranoia." But paranoia was already taking root. Landmarks they had depended on vanished or warped between visits. Paths mapped with painstaking care twisted into unfamiliar trails. Even the sky seemed to shift, the sun's angle warping subtly, confusing their sense of time. Lena's whispering continued, a desperate litany against the encroaching silence. With every name she breathed into the wind, some features held their place a little longer. The island, it seemed, could be momentarily anchored by language, but the reprieve was fleeting. "I don't know how much longer we can hold on," Evelyn confessed one evening, the pale glow of her recorder illuminating her worn face as she documented the day's findings. "If the island wants to erase us, it will." Marcus slammed a fist into a boulder, his frustration boiling over. "We need to push forward, map every inch before it changes again. If we stop, we're lost, and if we push too hard," Lena asked, voice trembling, "we risk losing ourselves in the silence." The island was a predator, patient and unyielding. It consumed not only the physical but the intangible, memories, names, the very essence of identity. The team's unity frayed under the strain of the vanishing world around them, each step forward a battle against oblivion. As twilight deepened, the clearing where the ancient tree once stood was swallowed by shadows. The land seemed to hold its breath, a silent witness to the scientists' desperate struggle. And beneath the creeping silence, the island waited enchanted, unyielding, and alive in its erasure. "We're not just mapping geography anymore," Evelyn whispered to herself, voice barely audible over the rustling leaves. "We're mapping oblivion." A cold wind swept through the clearing, carrying with it a faint, almost imperceptible whisper of forgotten name, a lost memory, a warning from the silent depths of the island itself. The team's journey into the unknown was only just beginning, and the shadows of vanishing landmarks stretched long into the night. In the muted light of the island's clearing, Dr. Evelyn Hart was reviewing her notes when a sudden, chilling disturbance rippled through the camp. A quiet murmur rose, fragmented and uncertain. It was Lena who noticed first. She knelt beside Dr. Samuel Ortiz, who stood frozen at the perimeter of their makeshift camp, his eyes glassy and unfocused. "Samuel," she whispered, stepping closer, her voice barely audible against the gentle rustle of the island's strange foliage. He turned to her, his brow furrowed, lips parted as if about to speak, but no words came. "Samuel, what's wrong?" Evelyn called out, her voice sharp with urgency as she hurried over. The others gathered quickly, their faces pale and strained, reflecting the unease that had taken root overnight. When Evelyn reached him, she heard the tremor in his voice as he finally spoke. I can't remember. My name." The words hit like a thunderclap. Silence fell, thick and suffocating, as if the island itself was swallowing sound whole. Everyone stared at Samuel, disbelief and fear knitting their brows. Marcus stepped forward, his usual confident swagger replaced by a tense, jittery energy. "That's impossible," he said, eyes scanning the psychologist's face for signs of a trick or a breakdown. "You're joking." But there was no humor in Samuel's gaze, only a vacant confusion that chilled Evelyn to her core. She pulled out her notebook, fingers trembling, and flipped the page where she'd recorded each member's name and function. "Samuel Ortiz," she read aloud softly, then looked back at him. Do you remember this? He shook his head slowly. No, nothing. The camp erupted into whispers, some skeptical, some terrified. Captain Jonas Reed barked an order to regroup, his voice a rare anchor of authority in the mounting chaos. Everyone, stay calm. We don't know what's happening, but panic won't help. Evelyn's mind raced. This was more than a psychological breakdown. It was the island's influence manifesting in its most insidious form. A creeping erasure that was not just physical but mental, targeting the very essence of identity. The tides here didn't just wash away footprints, they swallowed memories, names, the self. Marcus was pacing near the shoreline, hands jammed into the pockets of his worn leather jacket, his jaw clenched. This isn't some cosmic fluke, he muttered, voice low but edged with frustration. We can't keep relying on traditional science to explain this. The island's messing with our brains, our realities. Evelyn approached, her expression tight but resolute. We stick to the data. Panic clouds judgment. We document everything. That's our only anchor now. Words and notes won't save us if the island keeps erasing us. Marcus snapped back, eyes flashing with desperation. We're losing ground, fast. Tensions flared, the team fracturing under the pressure of an enemy they could neither see nor fight conventionally. Evelyn's leadership was tested like never before. Her voice rose above the murmurs as she tried to rally her team. We need to name everything ourselves. The island's features, our findings. Naming is resistance. Don't forget who you are. But even as she spoke, the silence deepened. Conversations faltered, words became labored, and an oppressive stillness settled over the camp. The island's fog thickened, swallowing sound and light, erasing not just the voices, but the very memory of speaking. That night, the team huddled close, whispering names and fragments of their pasts to stave off the encroaching void. Evelyn's hands trembled as she scribbled notes by the flickering light of their lantern. Each word a desperate plea against the tide of oblivion. Outside, the waves lapped silently against the shore, indifferent and eternal. The island waited, patient, its erasure creeping closer, promising to consume not just their bodies, but the stories that made them who they were. And somewhere in that creeping silence, the first name was lost forever. The tide had shifted again, creeping in with an unnatural softness that swallowed the jagged edges of their camp. Evelyn's eyes scanned the horizon, the salt wind whipping strands of dark hair across her sharp features. She felt the weight of the island pressing against her, a silent force that seemed to pulse with each crashing wave. Look at this, Marcus called from the edge of the clearing, crouched beside a cluster of rocks. His voice was tense, breath coming in short bursts. The tide's taken the markers we set up yesterday. It's like the island is erasing us. Evelyn stepped closer, noting how the sand where their footprints had been just hours before was now smooth and untouched, as if no one had walked there. The usual sharp scent of salt was tinged with something else, an indistinct trace of damp earth and something metallic, almost like dried blood. Lena approached silently, her pale face partially hidden beneath a loose hood. She carried a small notebook, its pages worn and smudged. It's not just the physical, she whispered, voice barely audible over the gentle roar of the surf. I can feel it in my mind, the memories slipping away, names dissolving into the mist. Evelyn nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. The island wasn't just a place. It was a living entity, one that devoured identity and presence alike. The team had lost time, sometimes hours at a stretch, and with it, fragments of themselves. But today, Lena had something new. She knelt beside a peculiar rock formation coated in glistening salt deposits. Her fingers traced strange, weathered carvings, symbols that seemed to resist the island's erasure. "These markings," she said, "they are names. Names that hold power here." Marcus frowned, skepticism flickering in his eyes. "Names? You mean like labeling stuff?" "More than that," Lena replied, voice steady despite the tremor beneath. "I think naming these places anchors them, anchors us. It slows the forgetting." Evelyn's gaze sharpened. "Then we have to name everything. Every tree, every rock, every path. If it slows the island's hunger, we use it." Captain Jonas Reed emerged from the shadows of the trees, his weather-beaten face drawn tight in concern. "Sounds like fighting ghosts with names," he muttered, scanning the restless waves. "But if it keeps us from disappearing, I'm all for it." The team split up, voices rising in a chorus of whispered names that tangled with the wind. Evelyn called out names for the trees, their gnarled branches twisting like skeletal fingers. Marcus marked the shifting terrain with hastily drawn signs and shouted out designations for landmarks that seemed to shimmer, just beyond reach. Lena moved methodically, her voice low and rhythmic as she repeated ancient words she'd deciphered from the carvings. The island's silence seemed to hesitate, a faint tremor in the air, as if uncertain how to respond. But the tide was relentless. It crept closer, lapping at their feet, chasing away the traces of their existence. Equipment vanished, memories blurred, and a cold panic settled in Evelyn's chest. Her hands trembled as she jotted notes, lines of frantic script that grew more chaotic with each passing hour. "We're fighting time itself," she murmured, eyes darting to the horizon where the fog thickened. The island whispered secrets in the hush between waves, a soundless voice that gnawed at the edges of their minds. Yet, in the act of naming the defiant utterance of words, the team found a fragile thread of resistance. Each name spoken aloud was a spark in the gathering dark, a flicker of identity against the encroaching void. But the cost was clear. The effort drained them, and the island's erasure pressed heavier with every breath. Captain Reed's voice cut through the tension as he barked orders to reinforce the camp. The water's edge crept nearer, threatening to wash away their shelters and the thin safety they clung to. "We hold here, or we lose ourselves," Evelyn said, voice steely despite the exhaustion gnawing at her. The struggle was far from over. The salt and silence converged in an endless tide, pulling them toward oblivion. Yet, as the team bound themselves with language and memory, a fragile hope shimmered beneath the surface. Perhaps names could be weapons, and words the last refuge against a terror that would erase all traces of their being.